Welcome to Insights for Manufacturing, the podcast that supports the UK manufacturing sector. Hosted by Jeff Beecham, the manufacturer's recruiter. Hello and welcome to Insights for Manufacturing. Today we're going to be discussing executive coaching and how working with a coach can transform your individual leadership and mindset to improve the success of your business. I'm delighted to welcome my guest today, Sarah Farmer, Director of Emr Consulting. Welcome, Sarah, and how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to see you, and thank you for having me on the show.
You're very, very welcome. So before we get into the sort of main discussion, do you want to just give a brief overview of who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm an executive coach. But what is an executive coach? We all do slightly different things. I work with over 500 leaders and their teams, and entrepreneurs and job seekers, helping them achieve incredible results, like going from having 0 job offers to 4 in 4 to 6 weeks, but also increasing revenues by 10 to 20 million as well. So quite a diverse range of experiences and outputs. I specialize in working with senior leaders and C-suite executives who are either returning to work post-redundancy or going into their first time senior leadership or board level role. And I help them develop the confidence and the skills to be able to exceed their onboarding outcomes. I know we're going to mention the book, so I'm not going to go into that now, but I have a book coming out for Imposter Syndrome sufferers, but we'll talk about that later in the show. And really what I'm aiming for, my big dream in life is to create a world where all senior leaders get coaching, mentoring, support, and ongoing development to help them grow emotionally, intelligently, to be able to create high performance environments where everybody is treated with respect and can thrive. So that's what I'm all about. That's what I'm up to. Not much to do. But yeah, it's a great job, and looking forward to discussing this in more detail with you.
Absolutely. That's a great overview and summary. So you talk about imposter syndrome. This is something that, is very popular at the moment. It's a really hot topic. I've experienced it in the past, so I know a little bit about imposter syndrome, but it's less of a taboo these days, or it's becoming less of a taboo, I think. So can you explain for the listeners, what is imposter syndrome and what can you do when you work with execs or businesses to help them get over this debilitating situation?
Yeah, it's a good question. So first of all, to say it's getting more talked about. It's still massively misunderstood. And the amount of people that say to me, stop talking about things that don't exist. They don't want to believe that it exists, which is interesting. So imposter syndrome does exist. It's a state where even if we've had great success, we believe that we're a fraud, that we're going to be found out. A lot of people procrastinate over making decisions. And it's generally caused from not understanding ourselves well enough. We don't have enough of a self-belief and a self-awareness to be able to make great decisions confidently. So we start feeling like we're going to get things wrong. So what I do, and really, we're all in this state a bit to some extreme or another. So there's extreme imposter syndrome, which is really quite debilitating and can lead to all sorts of illnesses and mental health problems. To the other end, which is extreme overconfidence. Now, people often think, well, how can you have, that can't be imposter syndrome. To me, it is. And the book that I've written describes it as such, because anything that stops you performing to your very best and impacts others is a form of imposter syndrome. If I'm being something that I don't need to be and upsetting people and being pretty horrible about it, I'm still causing a problem for the organization. So it's a bit of a leap to see one to the other. But actually, there's this bit in the middle, this utopic state where people have an unshakable self-belief with 0 ego. And this is where I get them to, where they understand themselves, trust themselves, can make better decisions, feel confident, but not overconfident.
Yeah.
It's a really nice place to be in. Really important when people are looking for jobs, or also when they're going into their onboarding first 90 days, where building trust and having an impact quickly is so vital. So Does that answer your question?
It does, and it sort of sparks the thought in my mind of everybody could eradicate whatever form of imposter syndrome they had. Wouldn't that make for an awesome company culture? Because certainly the overconfident imposter syndrome individuals, do add to that toxic culture, I think, sometimes.
You've got the toxicity at one end, and then you've got what appears to be complete submission at the other. And neither of them are healthy to an organization. And when we're looking at organization productivity and growth, you don't want either.
Absolutely.
But what I will say is, for those of us that have imposter syndrome, I've had it, I've got it under control, is if you learn how to control it, you can show up and be your very best self, but it never ever completely goes. And I kind of think having this low but not no imposter syndrome is a really important definition to think about. Is if you never ever checked yourself or thought a little longer about something, you'd be slipping over into a bit of an ego overconfidence. So there's this kind of low but no, not no but low imposter syndrome that I help my clients aim for and achieve. And it leads them to pretty incredible things. Doors open they didn't know were going to open before. You see things that you didn't see before. People warm to you. I describe it as becoming a bit sparkly. People are like, oh, sparkle. We want to be with a sparkly person. Yeah. You give off a different aura when you feel like that. And it's very rewarding for people to be with you when you're in that state.
Yeah. Without giving away all of your secrets and tips, how do you actually help execs or job seekers, overcome or get imposter syndrome in check?
There's a 5-step system that I use. And the first step is all about evaluating. So understanding where it's coming from, why you've got it, where it's showing up. Because what we do with imposter syndrome, when we're in imposter syndrome or self-limiting belief type state, we are working unconsciously or subconsciously in our brains. So my first job is to get them into a conscious state where they're recognizing what they're doing, why they're doing it, and where that's coming from. Now, a lot of the time we go back. Oh, when I was 14, this thing happened on the bus, and that's where it started. You're like, okay. But once you know where it started from, we can start to say, well, do you want this or not? No. Why not? The next thing is, how's it impacting you? And I look at mental health, physical health, financial wealth, and anything else. And who else is it impacting? The reason we do that is not to go, oh, scaremongering, you must stop. It's because until our brain realizes how much damage and how much of a block we're giving ourselves, we're not incentivized to look for something new to do. And the reason that's a problem is that anything new, anything that's involving change, elicits a fear response. And as soon as we feel fear, we decide we don't want to do it. So we get caught in this catch-22 of, I don't want to feel like this, but I'm scared of doing the other thing, even though it's going to be better. So we do a lot of work on what you're doing, why you're doing it, where's it coming from, who's it impacting, how is it making other people feel, what's the ripple effect, what's the impact? If the answer is no, we then create a new mantra, a new narrative, which is the opposite to everything you were saying, thinking, believing, and feeling about yourself before. Then that is practiced, rehearsed. You use it every time your brain goes into this space where you'd normally go down a doom loop of, I can't, I shouldn't, I wouldn't. And then the very last stage is helping people see the difference you're making in the work that you do. So it's a nice steady flow. The front end is quite for people because it's a bit uncomfortable, but once they get to that middle bit where you're generating this new feelings, thoughts, beliefs about yourself, then they're like, whoa, I'm off. And the difference is just incredible, absolutely incredible. So that's my 5 steps.
So I was thinking, if individuals have been through this process of, realizing where they've been, they've got into this new state of having their imposter syndrome held in check.
Yes.
Are the people that you're working with or the people that you have worked with, are they then more inclined to help others and understand, does that sort of boost that empathy for others that might have been through that journey? I mean, it's almost like, it would seem to me, almost like an infectious type of positive process that they go through. So is this one of the ripple effects that is an outcome for this exercise, would you say?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because what I've given you is kind of the overview of how we take control of imposter syndrome and keep it in check. But actually what happens as a result of that is, so we're understanding why we behave in certain ways, why we get upset, why we're reacting to things badly, and all of those, all of these things about emotional intelligence, which we didn't know before. So although it said, let's get over imposter syndrome or take control of it, the stuff happening underneath is better because you understand yourself better, but it also does make you more empathetic and notice where other people are as well. And my big aim for this is that anybody that learns it has it as a leadership skill that they then lead other people with and teach it to other people. Because like you said right at the beginning, if we had a world where everybody could control it, wouldn't it be better? We'd be happier, we'd be healthier. The other big thing it has an impact on is attrition rates, because if the leader is more self-aware and empathetic, they have lower attrition rates, mental health issues like that lead to absenteeism and presenteeism, all massively reduced. The knock-on effect is incredible. It's not just that, my mindset's a bit better. Actually, this is a business essential tool for all leaders to have and understand.
Absolutely. And we'll just get on to onboarding in a second, but it's almost like, things like onboarding and helping employees or, exec team getting over imposter syndrome. It should be part of every sort of business's people strategy, because of the knock-on effect. It
should be. The problem is, Jeff, is that it's still a real, people don't want to tell people they've got it. They don't want to say, how do you say to someone, I'm a senior leader, I'm joining your organization, and I'm a little bit freaked out? I mean, how do you say that without people thinking, should we have employed you? Oh my goodness. When I talk about the stories on LinkedIn about the people I work with, I'm not allowed to mention their names. They are still embarrassed, even though they're getting over it. They're embarrassed to admit they have it. And that's what needs to change, is the HR departments need to go, this is the best kept secret in the boardroom. Everybody's, am I allowed to swear a little bit? Everybody's shitting themselves just a little bit. And no one's admitting it. Now, if we could just admit it and go, actually, it's perfectly normal to feel a bit anxious, to second guess myself sometimes. But when I know how to control that, we'll all be better. Let's stop pretending it doesn't exist, because every senior leader that I speak to, every C-suite, every board level person behind the scenes says to me, I don't actually know completely what I'm doing. They do, but they have this bit of, I'm still 12. How can I be doing this grown-up job? And we all have a bit of that, unless we're overconfident and arrogant. That's a different story.
It can be quite a lonely place as well, can't it? If you've got that imposter syndrome, wherever it is on the spectrum, it's like anything else. You need to try and share that problem. It's a problem, isn't it? It's a problem for me when I've had it in the past, and it sort of comes back momentarily every once in a while, and you have to try and beat it down with a stick and go away. It's good to talk to people about it, and therein lies the value in what you do with executive coaching. It's
about mental resilience as well. So this, we talk about what else do you get from this. Some people are born mentally tough and they're able to just cope with things better than others, but they're few and far between. Some of us have to learn to be mentally resilient. So this is mental resilience training. Call it what you like, develop an unshakable belief. But when your mind is stronger, you are better. Simple. It's that simple. And not everybody's mind is as strong as it could be. And when they work with me, it becomes much stronger. And that's why better results happen. So
I notice one of the other topics that you've been talking about a lot recently is onboarding. Part of the, the recruitment, hiring and retention process. So from a recruiter's perspective, it's always good to know that your clients have got a formalized and structured onboarding process. There are still lots of organizations out there, as you know, that fail abysmally at onboarding and then suffer the consequences. So it's a really important part of the hiring and retention process. As I said earlier, it should be a key part of the people strategy of every business. So What are you currently working on, Sarah, that can help businesses and individual execs specifically with onboarding?
Okay, so the thing about onboarding is only about 12% of organizations are actually doing it effectively, which is way too low. So there's a big deficit in the majority of organizations. People that think they're doing it well are often missing that someone has to do, and setting up meetings and meeting individuals. Maybe they do that. What they're forgetting is the human need behind it. Yeah. Someone that you can trust. So the people that I work with who are onboarding and smashing it, like getting promotions in 6 weeks, I mean, that's beyond exceeding onboarding expectations. They are going in more confident. They have someone they can talk to outside of the organization that is there purely for them. Yep. The intent with me is purely to hold up the mirror. What are you doing? How could this be better? Reminding them of the skills that help them build trust and communicate, because it's when you're under pressure and you're starting a new job, because your tension is higher, your ability to communicate, build trust, all those little things that you used to be able to do when you were calmer have gone. Yeah. Suddenly become, all you're obsessed is, I've got to get a result. So having somebody that is looking after you and is there to hear your every fear with there's no judgment. You're allowed to say what you want, how you want, when you want, and be able to be picked back up and invigorated whenever you need it. That's what makes a difference. So I've got I don't know if you can see it, I've got the first 90 days behind me. It's a great book. It's a strategy, but it's not about the human. There's no human in there. It's just do this, do this. Well, what about if I don't feel great? Yeah. What about if I've had a bad day? What about if I'm feeling a bit wobbly? What if my new SLT hate me or I hate them? What happens is people are brought on board at a very high level and they're expected to just go and smash it. And we forget they are just humans and they still need looking after. And where you put an executive coach in with those people, the retention rates and the success rates are so much higher. And of course they are. It makes sense. You've got somebody in your corner fighting with you. And if you think of the cost, I mean, you'll know better than me, but the cost of a failed CEO or C-suite hire is in the hundreds of thousands, right? Yeah. And that isn't just the interview, onboarding, everything else. This is the attrition rates from everyone else they've affected, the loss of business, your loss of market share. And the cost of an executive coach for 6 months, 15,000? I mean, really? Where would you spend your money? I wouldn't put the risk. I think taking the risk away is massively important. But the joy that they get and the performance they get outshines any money you could spend on that anyway.
Absolutely. Well, quite often the exec roles they're intrinsically business critical, aren't they? There's very little room for error. So it's important that top talent is found, it's hired, it's retained, yes, it's looked after and maximized, and people are, I think sometimes with managerial and executive candidates, I think sometimes businesses assume that because they've got to such a level in their career that they're not like somebody maybe working on the shop floor or in a sort of lower sort of tier of the business, that they don't go through these same human thoughts and feelings. They're still a newbie. They're still a new starter, aren't they?
Everyone I've spoken to says the same thing. They're all senior. They're all C-suite. Some are MDs. They've got hundreds and hundreds of millions responsibility under their belt. And they walk through that door and they all go, because I may have done it before, but what's to say I'm going to be able to do it again? That is a normal human reaction. And if you have such an ego drive that you think it's no problem, you're probably going to really be upsetting people along the way. So either way, there's this bit in the middle, this utopic state where I've got this, I'm going to check myself and I'm going to check in with someone and feel, make sure I'm doing the right thing. But I've got this is a more productive and more powerful and more money-making state to be in for anybody. Yeah. But we're still just humans. Doesn't matter what
balance.
Yeah.
Okay, so Emr Consulting, what you in your 7th year now, is that right?
I think this might be my 8th year.
Your 8th year, crikey.
2015.
Okay.
No, next
So
year will be my 8th year. Yes. Yeah.
how do you know, or how do you sort of qualify if a business or an individual is going to be a right fit for you, or vice versa? How do you sort of match how do you bridge that gap between what you can offer and the needs of the individual or the business?
There has to be some conversations, of course. You're absolutely right about the match. There has to be a match. Not every coach is right for every client. And I've said no to some clients, and clients have said no to me because we're just not the right fit. Now, I'm no shrinking violet. I'm pretty tough, but there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of energy. I sing sometimes. Don't ask me why. I don't know why. But all sorts of things come out. But it's you've got to have the right person ready for you, and vice versa.
Yeah.
I only work with people that really want to put the effort in and are really driven to achieve more and want to care about people and put people first. If I feel this is all about personal gain, I find that very, very difficult to work with. That probably wouldn't last very long. But there's always an initial conversation to understand, where are you now? Where do you want to be? What's stopping you? So what's in that gap between A and B? It's a bit of diagnosis.
Yep.
And then understanding whether I can do that with them and for them. And then if we're the right fit, and if we are, it's magical. If it's not, it's, who else could I recommend to you? Because I work with lots of different executive coaches as well, who have different styles, different focuses. But if we're talking about mindset, if we're talking about emotional intelligence, and we're talking about leadership excellence, and we're a good fit, boy, are we going to have fun.
So have you got, let's say, three top tips for either businesses or individuals considering using an external executive coach, and in particular, for things like onboarding or imposter syndrome? What would you advocate?
I'd do some research, and I would talk to several, because you'll get a feel for who that right person is. And everybody that talks to me is always talking to 2, 3, sometimes 4 other coaches. You can tell in the first few minutes whether it's going to work or not. It's not about, most of us who are highly trained have got the skills, but not everybody has skills in everything. So think about, if they haven't helped you diagnose what the real problem is and what you need to work on and what you benefit from working on, they're probably not a very good coach. They're probably just going to sit and listen to you and be more counselly. That's not what you need. You need a coach mentor, really, that can teach you some stuff, hold the mirror up, be kind, be the support, be everything. So look for what they specialize in, check that you like them, and also make sure you're ready to put the work in, because we don't do the work for you. We really encourage you and inspire you and energize you to do the work, or create the environment where you can be all of those things. But you have to be ready, otherwise it won't work. And I've worked with a couple of people like that in the past, where I felt a complete failure. This was back in the early days, and I looked at it and thought, they just weren't ready, and I should have known that. So I'm much better now at going, are you really ready? And if they are absolute guns blazing, when can we book in? We know we're onto something. If we've got, well, I'll think about it for a week. Okay, bye-bye. You're not ready yet. Or I'm not the right person. So research, speak, diagnose, think it through. And then don't think it through too hard, because a lot of people procrastinate for so long, going, should I, shouldn't I? Just do it. We know that everybody that works with a coach, you think about tennis players, football players, they don't become stars by going, I'll read a book about this. That won't help you. Knowledge is not power. Action is power, with the right knowledge. But knowing how you're doing and having somebody strong enough to hold the mirror up to you and say, can you see what you're doing? Can you hear what you're saying? Where's that feeling coming from? And then moving you forward, that's powerful.
So aside from EMR coaching, I know you've been involved in a couple of other interesting projects recently. We sort of alluded to your book. We'll talk about that in just a second. But there's also the business brunch. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? If they haven't already seen the business brunch on LinkedIn, what's it about?
Where have they been? Okay, so what happened? I'll just give you why it happened. So back in, I think it was early November last year, obviously COVID was still very much a thing. People were still working from home, as a lot of people are. And I was listening to one of my co-hosts, Vanessa Ashworth, who you've also had on the show, who's awesome. Yep. And she was doing a video, and I just had it on over lunchtime, and she was chatting away. And in my mind, I was kind of chatting back because I was feeling a bit lonely. I do sound sad. But you've been on your own quite a lot. You're going a bit stir crazy. And so I had an idea, and I thought, why don't we create a show where people haven't got someone to chat to? They haven't got a working from home team. Leaders aren't leading them as well as they could be because we're all so remote. People are feeling isolated and a bit lonely and confused. So I rang Vanessa, and I also rang Melinda Ward, who's the other co-host, and said, I've had an idea. Should we put on this show? And I didn't really know what it was going to do. It was supposed to be just to connect and entertain, but also to teach people some stuff.
Yeah.
And over the months, it's really developed, and it's now the Business Brunch. It was LinkedIn Ladies Loose and Live or something before, but it's got a bit more serious and grown up now. And every week we pick a topic that leaders, aspiring or inspiring, and entrepreneurs can learn from for free and connect to like-minded people. And it's getting more and more traction. We've got people from all over the world watching it. It's incredible. You can catch it on replay as well. So if you're not there at 12:30 UK time, you can watch it later. And there's a bit of a 10-minute preamble when we're checking in with people, asking people how they are, what their weekends are like. If you don't want any of that, just skip through to 10 minutes in and you're straight into the juice. And we have guests. We've had you on the show. We've had all sorts of authors on the show. It's incredible. Next week's show, actually, I don't know when this is going out, but we've got a LinkedIn specialist coming on. So anything that's going to help leaders shine, show up, be stronger, understand more, be self-aware. That's what we're all about.
So this goes out every Monday, 12:30 on LinkedIn and
LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. It's everywhere, but mainly our viewers come from LinkedIn. The rest is just on our feeds wherever we are, so other people can catch up on it. But yeah, 12:30 to 1:15 UK time, which is I think 7:30 in the morning Eastern time and 1:30 European Central. Is that CET? Is that
brilliant?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Like and so the book, I don't even know what the book's called at the moment. I know you've been working away on this book for months. How did that all come about? Was it a passion project? Did you have a spark of inspiration one day and decide to do it? Or
I suffered with imposter syndrome as a child and have done severely through my more adult work life, where I, at the hands of really seriously awful leaders who just wrecked my self-belief and gave me just incredible anxiety. So the dream about Emr Consulting was to create leaders and help develop environments where that didn't happen anymore. The reason the book came about is that I wanted to get my message out and I didn't know how to do it because, I've got this 5-step system and it was working, and how do I tell people about it? And I came across a gentleman called Daniel Priestley who runs a course called The Key Person of Influence. He's amazing. And I joined the program, and part of that program is you get to write a book. But in my usual expressive, fast speed mindset went, can I just write the book now? Because I thought if I don't do it while I'm thinking about it, I'm never going to do it. I'm going to freak out and the imposter syndrome will come and go, what do you know? How could you write a book on this? So I just did it. And I spent 4 months working, every hour God sends anyway, but weekends writing up to 40,000 words. I've done it. It's in for editing. I'm so relieved. I'm never writing another book ever. Well, maybe ever again, but I did it. And it's going to go out. And what I want for this book is that everybody can pick it up who suffers with imposter syndrome, if they're a leader or not. It is for leaders. I don't know what the title is yet. We're working on that. Leader Unleashed or something, but it's all about taking control of imposter syndrome, 5-step system to take you from a bit wobbly or a bit over the top into that utopic state of unshakable belief, zero ego, loads of opportunities, loads more success, more importantly, more fulfillment, more happiness. And that has got to be a better place to live in up there than, I'm a fraud.
Absolutely. Well, let me know when it's going to come out. I will gladly buy one of your first copies, or if I can pre-order, I'll do it today.
All right.
Sounds like an amazing book, really a really useful resource. As you say, it's for execs and leaders, but for anybody really with imposter syndrome. So
The reason I've said it's for leaders is because I've done an additional chapter which is all about how to coach. I've done lots of little extra bits that I do on my onboarding programs as well. So a bit about the SCARF model, human psychological needs. So there's lots of add-ons in there, which anyone can read actually. But yeah, I've tried to make it as rounded as possible. Yeah, I'm very excited. Can't wait.
Brilliant. Well, you and me both. So what's next for the rest of 2022? We're just approaching the second half of this year. I don't know where time's gone. So what else have you got planned?
I'd like to go to sleep for a bit.
Yeah, sleep is good, apparently.
I'd like to go to sleep for it. What's coming up is the Eagle development program, which is the Eagle is the 5-step system. It's called the Eagle. That program is being run one-to-one with lots of people, but I've run 2 beta courses with it, which are just coming to an end this week actually, and next week. So the launch date of the first official program is in September. So all my efforts will be going towards helping people understand what that is, making sure the right people see it, hear about it, and come on it. And I'm also absolutely, rammed with one-to-one clients as well, which is brilliant. I've got an amazing bunch of clients, so I'll be continuing to service those and looking after them and helping them shine. And then there's a couple of side projects going on as well, which is I've got a course which is the Interview Success Accelerator for those people who are wanting to get back into work and maybe struggling to get the interviews or struggling to get past interview stage, which I curated 2 years ago, but I haven't had time to do anything with it. So I'm talking to a couple of people, one of them will be you, obviously, about that and how we might be able to help people get hold of that, create a few online courses. So a lot going on, and then sleep.
Yeah, so maybe a holiday in there. It sounds like you
I need one of those.
Brilliant. Well, Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Some great topics. I know the audience are going to be keen to learn more about imposter syndrome. Maybe they have it. Maybe they need some help. And the book sounds absolutely amazing. So we'll be looking out for that. So thank you for coming on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
That pretty much wraps up today's episode. So I hope the audience has enjoyed our discussion. Thanks again to Sarah Farmer. Thank you for listening, and look out for the next episode of Insights for Manufacturing. See you next time, and bye-bye.